skip ahead a bit as I get this set up, and we will get started. The big names, you probably know them already. Jerome Ford, Tony Jones Jr., Josh Reynolds, Matt Breida. We'll get into all those guys. Jerome Ford, of course, the biggest name with Nick Chubb going down last night. Brutal injury for Chubb. You hate to see it. You truly do. Not a guy you want to see lost for the season. And not a guy you want to see lost to an injury like that one. But we have to press on. Jerome Ford will be taking over lead back duties. We'll talk about how much FOB you want to spend on him. And with that, we are off and running. I'm good to go. We're off and running as a result. Jerome Ford, we'll just kick things off right away. Leads the week 3 waiver wire conversation. Will be the lead guy for the Browns for the rest of the season. I would say, regardless of who the Browns bring in, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a trade, Jerome Ford, you expect at this point to lead that backfield. He is the guy that they've been developing. He's been a part of the team for a couple of years, knows the offense. I don't think anybody's taking that job away from him, especially with how he ran last night. I know it was in relief of Nick Chubb, and so sometimes that guy off the bench with fresh legs can be a spark in those situations, but he looked really good in relief. Will lead that backfield moving forward. When it comes to FOB, if your waivers utilize FOB, and I know most of my followers, I feel like, or a lot of the followers that at least chime in the chat, I feel like a lot of folks have adapted FOB. They use FOB in their redraft leagues now. All I can say with Jerome Ford is it feels like this is the, you want a reason for why you spend FOB? Here it is. You're looking for, who should I spend all of my FOB on? Here's your answer. Nick Chubb is gone for the rest of the season. Will Jerome Ford be an RB1 rest of season? Not declaring that. Those are big shoes to fill that are probably not going to be filled by just one person, by one player. But Jerome Ford now has RB2 upside rest of season, and you have an opportunity to get him for just monopoly dollars. This is what FOB is for. If you play in an aggressive league, spend as much as you think necessary. If it's, if you think you need to spend 75% because everybody else is going to be bidding upwards of 65%, then do it. even if you're in a more conservative league, maybe you know for a fact, or maybe you have a hunch that people aren't going to go all out and drop all of their fob, then spend 50%. You'll still have 50 of it left over in a conservative league. So just remember, there's always levels to a question. How much fob should I spend on Jerome Ford? Be aggressive, but also be aware of the tendencies of your league mates. Obviously, things can go in an unexpected direction in any given situation. But if you feel like you can get away with, say, like a 35% of your fob on someone like Jerome Ford, then go up to 50 and make it and be sure about it, right? You know your league mates better than anyone else. Consider their tendencies, consider team needs. Is there somebody who's, or, do you have a couple people from last week who spend a lot of money week one and that squeezes it a little bit? Like, look at your specific scenario, and that'll help determine how much fob you spend on a guy like Jerome Ford. In aggressive leagues, go for it. Empty the bag. Like, that's what this is for. If it's a more conservative league, maybe you can get away with half of your fob, but all in all, you're looking for the transaction. Where should I spend my fob? What should I spend my fob on? Here it is. Here it is. It's Jerome Ford. It's not Tony Jones. It's not Matt Breida. Both guys are on the radar for the short term, but it's not in the same vein. It's not in the same stratosphere that Jerome Ford just vaulted into. Breida is not somebody I'm looking to spend a ton of fob on. Tony Jones Jr. is not someone I'm looking to spend a ton of fob on. In a $100 budget, I think I spent 15 fob last week, so I have about 85% of it left. I'll throw $1 at Matt Breida. Like 1 to 2%. This is short term, and it's a brutal matchup that he has to go up against in San Francisco on a short week. So, no thanks. Not interested. Someone else can have him. With Tony Jones, I guess he's a little more interesting for a game. Week 3 against the Packers. I'm still not spending more than a couple bucks, if that. You might as well pour all your efforts into Jerome Ford if he's available. If you need a receiver, Josh Reynolds looks to be a pretty good short-term solution if you could use a wide receiver. Had a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. Detroit hosts Atlanta in week 3. AJ Terrell will be on Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I'm just now realizing, I think Amon-Ra, he picked up an injury. Was it just cramping? I think it's what it was. He was like cramping in the game, so he's probably, there's no concerns for his availability. Yeah, so another favorable matchup for Reynolds if you need him. If you're in half of the leagues where Nico Collins is still not rostered, another guy I would spend significant fob on, but he's owned in 56% of sleeper leagues, and I think he's owned in around 60% of Yahoo leagues. So if you're in, one of those 40% of leagues where he's not available, then make sure to pounce on that. But he's probably already rostered in most leagues of the folks who listen here. Yeah, I mean, the waiver wire is pretty clear this week. Jerome Ford is the guy. And then after that, it's kind of like, what is your what does your team need? If you can't get Jerome Ford, do you need another running back? I don't know. Don't grab Tony Jones. Maybe grab Kendre Miller. That might be the sneaky pickup for the Saints backfield. So after Jerome Ford, it just depends on what your team could use. Tank Dell already has a prominent role. Tutu Atwell has a prominent role. He's still widely available. I think in around 70% of leagues. Actually, it's closer to 80% of leagues on Sleeper. So I'm looking, Tank Dell is rostered in 21%. So he's still available 79%. Atwell is rostered only 32% of Sleeper leagues. So he's still available in almost 70% of leagues. All these guys are officially on the radar for having streaming appeal for the rest of the season. The wide receivers, anyway. I would say if you need a running back and if you don't run FOB, if your waivers is just traditional waivers, if you don't have the number one spot or say a top 3 waiver position, I don't know that I would grab Tony Jones in New Orleans or Matt Breida with the Giants. I would go to New Orleans, but I would go ahead and see if I can just stash Kendre Miller. And he should fly under the radar because he didn't really play week 2. But he should be close to returning. He should be close to a return. I believe he practiced last week. Yep. He practiced. Kendre Miller did. He practiced all last week. He was still made inactive. The Saints aren't rushing him back. It was reported an hour ago that he should be a full go at practice. I mean, let other people in your league spend FOB on Tony Jones Jr. Go throw a buck at Kendre Miller if you know you're not going to get Jerome Ford. Take the upside of the rookie. Everyone else is going to be chasing the fact that Tony Jones got a cheap touchdown last night against a bad Panthers team. Roll the dice on the upside with Kendre Miller. I would be willing to bet that if he's healthy, if he doesn't have an injury designation, if both running backs for the Saints, Tony Jones Jr. and Kendre Miller, come into that game without an injury designation, I would be willing to bet that Kendre Miller is the guy who, if there is a snap and touch leader for the backfield, it's him. And then if you need to go deeper, again, I would pass on Matt Breida. If you need a running back and Jerome Ford is out of reach, whether through waivers or you just don't think you have enough FOB, if Jerome Ford is out of reach, skip Matt Breida. Skip Tony Jones Jr. Grab the rookies. Grab Kendre Miller for $1. Grab Roschon Johnson with the Bears for $1 or $2. I know that the Bears are bad, but Roschon has already made Donta Foreman obsolete. And Khalil Herbert, for his career, has been good, but has been good in a strictly committee role. Those are the dudes that you want to be taking the flyers on if you need a running back this week and Jerome Ford is out of your reach. Not Tony Jones, not Matt Breida. grab the rookies. Grab the rookies who are flying under the radar right now because they haven't made much noise just yet. That is a stash worth taking a shot on if you're a running back needy squad and you missed out on who got scooped up last week, Kyron Williams and the Ravens running backs. I don't know. Tony Jones Jr. feels like a similar trap. And I don't know that, not that Kenny Gainwell is a trap, but it's the same, situation as last week. Similar situation last week where it was like, no, there's another running back on that team that you want, and it's not Gainwell. I'm not expecting Kendre Miller for the Saints to put up any type of put up numbers close to what DeAndre Swift put up last Thursday night. I'm just betting on who has more upside. Kendre Miller, Roschon Johnson, they have more upside than a Tony Jones or a Matt Breida. So if you have any specific needs, let me know. If it's just straight up, who's the best value on waivers, regardless of position, because you're just looking to add talent, we can go through all of those. Happy to make that happen. Appreciate folks coming in. I see a few people in here now. If you guys could, I would appreciate likes if you are feeling so inclined. That does help my algorithm out, and we can get into the questions. But if you like what you're seeing and hearing, go ahead and smash that like button. Do me a solid and help out the stream a little bit. If you have the number 1 overall pick, you're between guys like Kareem Hunt, Tank Dell, or Jaden Reed. I don't know that I would necessarily want to spend the number 1 pick overall on Tank Dell. I like Tank Dell. I'm a fan of Tank Dell, but the number 1 overall waiver claim feels like a pretty hefty price to pay unless I am absolutely desperate for talent at wide receiver and he's the best option. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. I just got done talking about Matt Breida for you. I don't know if you caught it. Basically, don't pick him up. Don't pick up Matt Breida. Iron asked, you were asking me earlier about picking up Matt Breida. Don't pick up Matt Breida. If it's redraft, grab one of those rookie running backs. Grab Kendre Miller or grab Roschon Johnson and stash those dudes. But anyway, back to the first question. If these are the best dudes on available on your wire, like if Jerome Ford is already rostered, I assume Nico Collins is already rostered. But if Jerome Ford is already rostered, I am only spending the number 1 overall waiver claim on Tank Dell if I am absolutely decimated at wide receiver. Who would that even be? I don't even know who that would be. I guess if you had Deontay Johnson and I don't even know who else got hurt. Jalen Waddle's in concussion protocol, or, if you're absolutely decimated, you Brandon Ayuk, he might not suit up Thursday night. If you are absolutely at a bare bone situation with wide receiver, then sure, use the number 1 waiver claim on Tank Dell. But if I don't have an immediate need, then I'm holding the number 1 waiver claim. Okay. If it is Dynasty, I mean, 10% of your FOB, I guess, because it's more bare bones in Dynasty. I understand. I guess you could throw 10% of FOB on Matt Breida in Dynasty because you have Saquon, so you kind of protect your investor. You You grab some insurance for your investment. So sure, fine. In that scenario, that's okay. In that scenario, I guess that's okay. But hopefully Saquon can come back quickly. We, of course, wish the best for Nick Chubb. You hate to see injuries in general. That one in particular really sucked. Nick Chubb was, when you suffer an injury of that significance, you question if Chubb can return to the form that he was previously at before the injury, especially as a 28-year-old running back. But the dude is third in league history in yards per carry. Absolute beast. It's fun, and it's fun watching him do his thing. So, yeah, hope for the best. So 65 out of your fob. So, okay, yeah, you're talking about spending damn near all of it. I mean, again, yeah, when it comes to Jerome Ford, this is that pickup. This is that waiver pickup. If you think you need to spend the majority of your fob because you play in an aggressive league and you know that other people are going to pony up a significant number to try to get Jerome Ford, then go ahead. And if you need him, you lost Chubb. So fair to say you probably need Jerome Ford. This is a situation, especially if you have Nick Chubb, it's like blanket statement, like, what do I spend my fob on? Here it is. Here's your answer. I would go all out. I don't think 65 out of 77 is too much. If you lost Chubb, you need to empty the bank to get the guy that is going to give you the best shot at replacing him, short of making a trade where you're going to already have you're going to have to give up something to get something in return. Whereas this is just giving up monopoly dollars. This is the best way that you can kind of offset the loss and manufacture something out of a bad situation by just giving up free money. So yeah, if I'm in this situation where I have fob and I'm the person who has Chubb, I'm the one who just lost Chubb, to me, I might as well go for broke in this situation anyway. I just lost my first round pick, my first round stud running back. I just lost 2 weeks into the season. I'm not going to have him anymore. This is why you have fob, to get Jerome Ford, to make sure that you get the next best thing that can kind of hopefully keep you afloat. So yeah, 65 out of 77, fine. Do it. Yeah, I don't think that's too much. I don't think that's too much. And Richie, I see your follow-up. Metcalf got her. Okay, again, if it's dire straits, like, are you going to start Tank Dell this week? Do you have to start Tank Dell this week? Who's Houston get? Jacksonville, right? They're on the road against Jacksonville. I mean, at this point, it looks like there's no spot that's like necessarily too scary for a guy like Tank Dell, but in deeper formats. I mean, if you're starting him in a 10-team league, that might not be the best sign. That might not be the best sign. Do I think Kyron is going to still, put up big numbers as long as nobody else is there? As long as nobody else is there, he's getting a ton of volume. The efficiency is not good. I will say that. I mean, and I'm not trying to sound like a Kyron Williams hater, but the efficiency is very okay. but there's nobody else in that backfield. And the Rams don't feel like a team that's going to bring in one of these older veteran running backs. Like, they've clearly got a young team that they're looking to develop and grow. Do they need backfield help? Yeah. I mean, they've basically cast Cam Akers aside. Kyren Williams can't possibly expected to be a bell cow for the rest of the season. But at the very moment, there's nothing else in that Rams backfield. I mean, it's Zach Evans and Royce Freeman. I guess Zach Evans and Royce Freeman would be the guys who mix in. To me, that's in today's NFL, that is depth that a team is going to be perfectly fine with. A veteran who is dirt cheap, but can give you some production here and there if you need him to step in there in Royce Freeman. And then a rookie, what was Evans? Like a 5th or 6th round pick? It might have been a 7th round pick, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. He was a 6th round pick. I mean, this is the type of backfield a team wants. A young guy who has flashed some talent that they can kind of mold and develop now, Kyren Williams. A dirt cheap vet who is good enough to mix in there when called upon, and Royce Freeman sporadically, very sporadically, but still, it's more about the dollars and not about as much the ability. And then a rookie that you spent a day 3 pick on, who you're bringing along in Zach Evans. So yeah, I mean, Kyren Williams should probably continue to putting up pretty good numbers. So yeah, I mean, you can fire Kyren Williams up this week. Like, if you have Saquon or well, God forbid, if you know, or Nick Chubb, or hell, Eckler. I think I saw a report that Eckler's there's not a timetable. Now, obviously, that's very vague, and that might not mean a whole lot. Yeah, yesterday, head coach Brandon Staley of the Chargers said that Austin Eckler is without a timeline for his return. That could mean that he's back that's vague. Like, yes, it sounds bad, or it sounds worse than not, right? No timeline to return. Oh, hell, like, he might be out for 6 more weeks. Not actually, but yeah, it's easy to hear something like that and immediately think the worst case scenario. Eckler could be back this week, but if you have him and he's not able to suit up, if you have Nick Chubb, if you have Saquon, who is, I know that Dayball said, "Oh, we're going to take it right up to Thursday. He's a true game time decision." He's not playing. I'll say that right now, and for the sake of his season and his health, I hope he doesn't play. Saquon's not going to play on this short week. Can't imagine. If you have one of those guys, Saquon, Nick Chubb, Eckler, you can absolutely fire up Kyren Williams this week. So yeah, the production should still come. Iron, what should we do with Najee? Yeah, so I want to apologize for that one. I liked Najee as a low end RB1 this year, a guy that you could draft late in the 4th round and regain some of the lost value behind what should have been a better offensive line and in a better offense. Not only have the Pittsburgh Steelers stumbled out of the gate on offense in a big way, they're a colossal major. They're an incredible defensive performance away from being 0-2 against a Cleveland Browns team that certainly didn't deserve to win last night. not only is that not a good offense right now in Pittsburgh, but Najee looks terrible. Najee looks terrible. He looks like Trent Richardson 2.0. Jaylen Warren clearly looks like the better player in that backfield. I expected Warren to continue to get work throughout the season because he earned that last year with his play. But I thought Najee would be in the, at least 55 to 60% of the work in a bounce back year for him in an offseason where he didn't come into the season injured like he did last year. I thought the turnaround was there. I thought the pieces were in place for Najee to have a nice season. And I guess it's too early to definitively declare that can't happen at all. But damn, it feels like we're there. It feels like we're there with Najee Harris. He looks bad. He is not as explosive as Jaylen Warren. If you have him in Dynasty, you probably have to hold because you are not going to get anything good for him right now. Yeah, if you have a good team, a deep competitive team, he's on the bench. Najee is on the bench this week. I mean, if you want to give him one more crack because they're playing the Raiders, then fine. But just because it looks like a pretty good matchup on paper does not mean that I feel good about the player. Najee looks terrible. What's going on, Alex? Good to see you, man. So I'll take the L on that one. For anybody that may have listened on advising why I like Najee this year, as a late third, early fourth round pick. While that's not like a death sentence necessarily to miss on a fourth round pick or a late third round pick, it doesn't do anybody any favors. That is still significant capital. He looks bad. I don't see any reason at this point why Jaylen Warren doesn't just get most of the work, most of the snaps and touches, because he's earned that. So if you have Najee, to the bench he goes, unless your depth has already taken an early season hit and you can't afford not to start him. If you have any other viable options to finish out your backfield and get your flex spot filled up, your flex spots filled in, to the bench he goes. He's not a drop, but he's clearly on the bench. Clearly on the bench. And as far as Puka, I mean, there's no especially if you drafted him in Dynasty, there's nothing that you're gonna that's gonna want me to move off from him, because you're not gonna get a first round pick, and right now that's where the hype is based on his production. No one's gonna give you that, but it's like, you want me to part with him right now after what he just did? Then I'll take a first round pick. So no, just hang on to him. Start him this week. I'm starting him in redraft. Dynasty, where the lineups are likely deeper, the rosters are deeper, the starting lineup, you have to go further down the bench to find viable options. That dude needs to be started. Puka should be in all lineups. 10 team, 12 team, don't care. Hell, it might be time in I mean, no disrespect, but the 8-team leagues, the training wheels leagues. If you play an 8-team leagues, Puka should be started in those. You just fire him up. If you're on your taxi squad, it's time to say, screw that. Welcome, congratulations on the promotion. Welcome to the main roster. If Puka's on your taxi squad in Dynasty, you get his ass up to the main squad. and you start him this week. He's earned that. I know that that's not typically what people do with the taxi, but in this situation, you have to elevate him. You have to elevate him and you have to start him. He has earned that. He has earned that. If we look back at, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. We were looking down the Rams depth chart over the course of the summer after Cooper Kupp and thinking, who is Matthew Stafford going to throw the football to? Clearly, they already had the guy on the roster. That dude is not going anywhere just because whenever Cooper Kupp comes back, if he's able to come back week 5. Yeah, you fire him up in all formats. Alex, you're involved in a deal with Puka, so you Puka, McKinnon, and a 5th round pick in 2 years for a late first. No, I would keep. I mean, that's a tough call. If you're getting the 112 for Puka, yeah, I don't know if I could do that right now. It probably makes sense. It is such a small, we're talking about a 2-game sample, but this dude has set NFL records in that 2-game stretch. This dude's got 25 catches in his first 2 games. Who does that? Plus, he's already in the name Hall of Fame. Puka Nacua. If you give him, you're trying to buy him. So I was thinking, Alex, I guess maybe how you interpret what I was saying was, if I had Puka, if I had Puka and someone offered me, I guess okay. With the late first, if it's the very last pick, like if it's the 106, then it's like, all right, I might just need to roll the dice here on a 1st round pick for a guy who was a 5th round pick, just, a 4th or 5th round pick in this draft. If I can get a mid first, despite the historic start, I probably should just take that. But the late first, I don't know. Let's think about that one. I'm marinating on that one, Alex. I'm marinating on that one. Let me think. As I come back up to the top of the chat, I'm not really going to do start-sit questions today. That's for later in the week. Start-sit questions are premature on Tuesdays, and unless, even if it's a Thursday, even if it's Thursday, guys, it's too early. We don't have any practice reports yet. So if anybody's got start-sit questions, table them. Come to me at least on Thursday. I'm probably not going to get too into it because, again, we're not going to have Friday's practice reports. There's still going to be the weekend to get to. You remember, again, late adds to injury reports. We saw it with Amari Cooper just this past week. Now, he ended up playing, but it was incredibly dicey because he played on Monday night. So, we got to wait until the weekend for start-sit questions. And if y'all already don't know, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. I will be here for start sit. If you can't make those, drop your question in the Discord, second link in the description. And we can get to it later in the week when we have a little bit more information. So I don't want to do start sit questions today. Let's table those until the weekend. And if you can't make it, drop them in the Discord. We'll see them eventually. Let's see. If you have Joshua Kelly, just circling back on running back holds. Yeah, you might as well hang on to him because again, Austin Ekeler is without a timetable. He's without a timeline to return. What does that mean? We don't really know. That could mean, it's objective. That could mean anything to anyone without a timeline. That could mean he's available in 3 days. It could mean he's available in 3 weeks. Regardless, it is murky. Yeah, you might as well hold on to Josh Kelly through the bye week. That's the other thing that makes this kind of tricky. The Chargers have a week 5 bye. That is an early bye. It's possible that if Eckler's injury is a little more serious than maybe we originally thought, that they hold him out until the week 5 bye. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's within the realm of outcomes. We see teams do this all the time. They obviously are all keeping the long view in mind this early in the season. They want Austin Ekeler in weeks 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. They're not going to be as worried about weeks 2, 3, and 4 if they feel like they can rest him at a time where he needs the rest. They're more likely in the beginning of the season to let him heal from anything he's going through or dealing with, get better from whatever it is that he's got going on. In this case, the ankle injury. So yeah, if you have Josh Kelly, you might as well hold. Don't drop because of the poor performance. I wasn't crazy about him this week because he had to go up against the Tennessee Titans. They've been good since last year, stopping the run. He does have a much more interesting and enticing matchup this week against the Vikings, who just got gashed for 175 yards on the ground by DeAndre Swift. Now, the Eagles' offensive line is really good, but that's insane production for anybody. So if Ekeler can't go this week, then Kelly's going to be on the streaming radar. So yeah, hang on to him. And Johnny, what's going on with Wandale? I think Wandale got leapfrogged. Might have gotten leapfrogged by Jalen Hyatt. We have to remember he did suffer a torn ACL later-ish in the season last year. So he's still working his way back from that. He's still working his way back from that. And it's not like this depth chart is insurmountable. Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton had a nice game against Arizona, but Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard, I guess. This is still a depth chart where a young player with promise can absolutely still contribute. But yeah, he might be losing ground to Jalen Hyatt. But we have to remember, he got hurt last year, kind of late, tore his ACL. That's about a 9-month recovery time. And we're talking about professional football activities. So it's not going to be surprising to see teams err on the side of caution with young players. So week 11, what is that? Like November, week 10 or 11? That's like November. So we're around that 9-month time frame of when he could possibly be expected to return to football activities. He's already practicing, so that's a good sign. Yeah, we probably just need to have a little bit more patience with him. But also, he could be losing ground to Jalen Hyatt. Uh, Let me see. I'm sorry, Charlene. I missed your question, but I got it now. Sean Tucker or Rico Dowdle rest of the season. This is a deep stash question. Dowdle. I mean, I guess Dowdle because the like just the player on the better team, and Pollard is has a slightly longer injury history than Rachaad White does. Not that it's a guarantee that trend continues, but you're just playing the percentages with deep stashes like that. So I guess I would say Dowdle. Sorry, I didn't mean to miss that question. Take the player on the better team in a situation where the bell cow has picked up a few more injuries than the other team's bell cow. And if you have Saquon, and you have Kyren Williams, fire up Kyren Williams this week, 100%. As far as fob on Tony Jones, I think this is a dynasty question. So Kendre Miller's going to be rostered, right? Roshan Johnson's going to be rostered. It's bare bones, right? Because it's dynasty. I mean, 10% of your fob, the same amount that you would spend on Breida, not that much. I know that in dynasty, waivers are thinner because the rosters are deeper. I'm spending like 10% of my fob in dynasty on Tony Jones and 0% in redraft. Alex, if you can coerce in that deal to not have to give up the second round pick, I think I would roll the dice. Like, all you have to say is like, look, we're talking about a dude who was drafted in the 4th round or the 5th round, or maybe didn't even get drafted at all, who is going for a late 1st round pick 2 games into his career. I don't think you should have to include the 2nd round pick. There's my answer. If you can get the 2nd round pick out of that deal, where you don't have to give that one up, and you're just giving up the 1st, still getting those other 2 pieces because they're dirt, because they're they add very little in value, McKinnon and the 5th rounder in 2025. If you can get the 2nd round pick removed from what you have to give up, then I would say screw it, pull the trigger. There's my definitive answer on that trade. Because if that pick's going to be the 112 or the 111, then maybe that's an okay sacrifice for a guy who, I know it's early, but in his short career is off to an historic start. Get the 2nd taken out of that of the asking price, and then I'll say, all right, make it happen. And then he'll catch 12 passes on Monday Night Football against the Bengals. Who to keep from Zay Jones, Dubs, Judy, Michael Thomas, and Elijah Moore? Are you having to drop one of these guys to pick up Jerome Ford? Because then if that's the case, the answer for me is it's either Jones or Dubs. I don't think you can drop the other guys. Probably Zay Jones. I mean, The dude got blanked on 6 targets. I guess it would be him. At least Romeo Doubs caught a few passes. Christian Watson's dealing with a hamstring injury that maybe is not going to bother him all season long, but at the moment, it is something that has held him out to start the year. So if this is a question about like, who do you drop so that you can put a waiver claim in for Jerome Ford, then Zay Jones. You drop Zay Jones. And speaking of Jerome Ford, who to drop for him? Herbert, Algier, Madison. I'm just looking at the rest of this team. I would say Algier. If you're already dropping Chig for Kirk Cousins, then drop Ford for Algier. Tyler Algier is a good player. Tyler Algier is going to remain involved for the Atlanta Falcons moving forward. This was a down week for him. He will have better weeks. But it is very clear that he is going to be an inconsistent player as long as Bijan Robinson is taking snaps for the Falcons. Some weeks, Tyler Algier is going to ball out. Some weeks, he's not going to do anything. Drop the backup for the starter. That's really what it comes down to. Drop the backup for the starter. If you have a good backup on your team and Jerome Ford is out there, you drop that good backup in hopes that you can get Jerome Ford off waivers because he is the starter now. That's all it comes down to. No matter who the Browns bring in, whether they sign Kareem Hunt, short of them making a trade for Jonathan Taylor, which I don't think they're going to do because then they're trading assets for a rental at a position that they probably didn't want to have to do that for, given the fact that they were coming into the season with Nick Chubb in the first place. Looking at Nick Chubb's contract, the only scenario where Jerome Ford gets usurped is if the Browns trade for Jonathan Taylor. That's it. And I don't even know how likely that is. Let's put that at a 5% chance of happening. There is a potential out next year in Nick Chubb's contract where he could be released by the team with a dead cap hit of just $4 million. I hate to say it, but that is absolutely possible now as a result of this injury. I don't think it was possible before. You don't just cut Nick Chubb, but you might now, depending on his recovery from a severe knee injury as a 28-year-old running back. So there is an avenue where the Browns might look at this and say, we can transition to our next franchise running back right now if we trade for Jonathan Taylor and work with him on dollars for a deal, for an extension on his contract. I don't know how likely that is. I'm sure they've kicked the tires on this conversation. I'll put those chances at around 5%. Otherwise, this is Jerome Ford's show. This is Jerome Ford's backfield. He is the clear-cut starter as of right now. I imagine they ride with him. On top of that, the Browns traded a lot of draft capital to get their mediocre quarterback, Deshaun Watson, away from Houston. So they may not want to trade too many more picks. What do they even have in 2024? They have their own second, their own third. They have 2 fifth-round picks. Okay, actually, the Browns have some. The Browns do have some late capital. You know what? If they chose that route, if they ultimately determined that that was what they wanted to do, they theoretically have the capital to make it happen. And it's not going to require all of this, but the Browns currently own their own second-round pick, their own third-round pick, 2 fifths, 2 sixths, and 2 sevenths. Some combination of that should in theory be enough for them to get Jonathan Taylor if they wanted to go that route. But then they have to give up draft capital to pay decent dollars to another running back. When so much money is already tied up to the quarterback as it is. So Jerome Ford is the dude. If you have a good backup on your roster, drop that guy for the current starter, Jerome Ford. So in this case, like a Tyler Algier, drop for Jerome Ford. 100%. What's going on, Callie? Thoughts on the Giants running backs? I didn't even think about Craig Reynolds earlier with David Montgomery missing a couple of weeks. In redraft leagues, I'm not looking at the Giants running backs, at least not this week. On a short week, having to play the San Francisco 49ers, I don't want Matt Breida. I don't want Gary Brightwell. If it's Dynasty, you want to spend 10% of your FOB because it's bare bones on the waiver wire in Dynasty, fine. Spend 10% of your FOB on a stopgap running back who can maybe help you out for a couple of weeks. Maybe week 4. I don't really want to play the Giants running backs week 3 on a short week against San Francisco. I have no desire to pick up either of those guys in redraft. I have no desire. If it's Dynasty, 10% of your FOB is fine, but I'm not going overboard. As far as Craig Reynolds, he is a little more enticing. While I do think that it would be smart for the Detroit Lions to just give Jahmyr Gibbs more work, it feels possible that they kind of just let Reynolds step into the Montgomery role and let him handle, let's say, 75% of whatever Montgomery was doing, maybe 65 to 70%. I hope it doesn't play out that way because Jahmyr Gibbs deserves more touches. But it's certainly possible that Craig Reynolds does get more work than we maybe anticipate, and maybe in the, in the situation of people who have Gibbs, what they actually want, right? So Reynolds is a little more interesting. I could spend a couple bucks on him in redraft, but again, if you're looking for running back stashes in redraft, I'm passing over Matt Breida and Tony Jones Jr. and probably even somebody like Craig Reynolds for, if they're still available, Kendre Miller and Roschon Johnson. Give me the upside of these rookies who have not done a whole lot yet. I know Roschon scored week 1, but he's probably still available in redraft leagues. I'm just going to check Yahoo really quick on Roschon. I know Kendre Miller's not widely rostered. And this, of course, is if you're going to miss out on, if you know you're going to miss out on Jerome Ford or you feel like you're not going to be able to get Jerome Ford. I mean, Kendre Miller is rostered in 13% of Yahoo leagues. Roshan is available in 38%. All right, so Roshan's rostered in almost 40% of Yahoo leagues. But still, that's 60% of leagues where he's out there and available. If you are looking for some running back depth on the wire and you can't get Jerome Ford, those rookies are the direction I'm going in. Not Tony Jones, not Craig Reynolds, not Matt Breida. With Kendre Miller, he hasn't played yet, but he practiced last week. He practiced on a limited basis last week. The Saints ruled him out, made him inactive for Monday Night Football. Earlier today, actually, I think it was only like an hour or two ago, the Saints came out and said that they expect Kendre Miller to be a full go at practice this week. Let your league mates spend a couple bucks on Tony Jones Jr. Let waivers pass. Again, if you can't get Jerome Ford, if it's traditional waivers, or you just don't think you'll have the fob, or you're not going to be able to get Jerome Ford for whatever reason. If he's already rostered, he might already be rostered in some leagues. I looked up in one of my 12-team leagues today and saw he was already rostered. I was like, what the hell? But that's the way some leagues are. That person probably might have had Nick Chubb. I don't remember. And just like had him rostered as a handcuff. So that worked out. But if you can't get Jerome Ford in redraft, let waivers run. And you need a running back. Let waivers run. Let Matt Breida, let Tony Jones Jr., let Craig Reynolds get scooped up. Stash Kendre Miller and stash Roshan Johnson. I already talked about how Kendre Miller's full practice this week is expected. With Roshan's case, he's already made Donta Foreman obsolete. Donta Foreman was a healthy scratch this past week. Roshan's already the number 2. The number 1 is Khalil Herbert. We like Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert's a good football player, but he's been really good specifically and strictly in a committee. Roshan's going to be involved more frequently sooner than later. Those are the dudes that I would be going after in redraft. 4 carries for 32 yards, 2 catches for 10 yards on both of the targets that he received. This is Roshan. I mean, that's not spectacular for a backup running back on a less than stellar team, but he averaged 8 yards a carry. So, I mean, limited sample, I know, and he caught 2 passes. He caught 6 week 1. If that dude is still available, that's the guy, Roshan or Kendre Miller. Those are the dudes that you should be let waivers run, scoop those guys up for a fraction of the price of what Tony Jones and Matt Breida and Craig Reynolds are going to go for this week. I don't think those guys are going to go for much, but they're going to go for too much. Whatever it is, they're going to go for too much. Go grab some upside with those rookies who are probably on waivers. Kendre Miller, for certain, is available on your waiver wire. So, yeah, redraft leagues that don't have FOB, you don't have a top 3 waiver claim or a top 2 waiver claim, because that's what it's going to take to get Jerome Ford. If you don't have that and you could use some running back help, save your waiver spot, let waivers run, wake your ass up early in the morning and just pluck Roshan or Kendre Miller off waivers, whichever one is available. If you have like waiver wire spot 10, 11, or 12 anyway, then sure, put the waiver claim in for one of those 2 guys. But if you've got like the 4, 5, 6 spot and you know you can move up this week, I would try to hedge. I would let waivers run, not submit a claim, and then as soon as I wake up in the morning, you just add for free either Roshan Johnson or Kendre Miller. That's my plan of attack in redraft leagues where I could use some running back depth and I know I can't get Jerome Ford. Good talk. Good talk. Let's see. Got offered Judy, Ayuk, and a third for Brian Robinson in Dynasty. Yes, you should take that unless your wide receivers are absolutely loaded and you have absolutely no running back depth. If that's the case, then you maybe have to give this some pause. But if you've got running back depth that can where you can comfortably offset Brian Robinson and you add Judy and Ayuk and a pick, yeah, do it. Yes, I would take that package. I would take those wide receivers. Yes, I would take those wide receivers. Unless you start Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill and I don't know, some other stud at wide receiver, and you have no need for depth, for more depth anyway. Unless that's your situation, yes, make that trade. Hell yeah, make that trade. Let's see. This is a trade. Ford was your RB4. You traded him and a second for a 2024 first. All right. I mean, are you competing this year? Do you have who are your new RBs 4 and 5 in the event that you need to lean on them? CXK. What's your, if you traded a guy who would be your RB4, is this a competing team, and who are the other running backs that you have who now need to fill that gap? If the answer is you've got two really good running backs and your RB3 is solid and you've still got more depth behind those guys, then hell yeah. Get a first round pick whenever you can. So yeah, I'll take it. Good trade. Um, is Wandale a drop? I mean, Wandale is only a drop in Dynasty if you are a clear-cut competing team and you need the roster spot for a plug and play. I'm only dropping Wandale in Dynasty if I have a top 3 team. I know I'm going to be in the playoffs and I know I'm going to make it I expect to at least win one round. If I have a top 3 team and I could use a guy that is going to contribute for me right now, like week 3, and I feel good about, whoever it is that I'm adding, then okay, fine. But right now, I am not looking to drop Wandale in the event that you just run out of IR spots. I don't want to do it for the sake of that. We still don't know what he is. There's plenty of time for him to course correct his current situation. I don't want to drop him. And okay, just to wrap up this question from CXK. Yeah, I mean, good deal. Good trade. Jerome Ford might be an RB2 for the rest of this year, but he might go back to being an RB4 in 2024, and then you're sitting there with a first round pick. That should age nicely for you. It's a short-term hit. Ford's going to put up some nice numbers rest of season. But if you can weather that, if you think you've got the depth and the guys to overcome that, then you just picked up a really nice asset that is going to continue to appreciate in value. Meanwhile, Ford, the second the season is over, his future is going to be a question mark. So yeah, good deal. Good deal. Good trade. Third in waivers tomorrow. I'm not prioritizing a backup quarterback for well, yeah, see, like Burrow is tricky because he reportedly re-aggravated the calf injury. We don't know how serious it is. I don't know that I just want to. I don't know that I want to like throw away the third waiver spot for a backup quarterback or a defense. Like, I guess you could drop Zay Jones. But if I've got the third waiver spot, I'm hoping that I can get. I mean, you're not going to get Jerome Ford. I mean, you still put the claim in for Jerome. If Jerome Ford is available on waivers, you put the third claim in and hope for the best. But if you don't get him, you don't have any immediate needs. Your starting receivers are fine. Your starting running backs are fine. Your backup running backs are fine. I would put in the claim for Jerome Ford. He's already rostered. All right. Then I would do nothing. I would hold it. I would hold that, let waivers run, and pick up whoever is available. After waivers run, then you just drop the Giants for. I haven't looked at the defenses yet to stream this week. Kansas City comes to mind because I know they play Chicago at home. Let waivers run, save that third spot, add the Chiefs if they're available, and drop the Giants. And if they're not, let's take a look at some matchups right now. I have not done my homework yet on defense streams this week. Again, start, sit. These are usually things that I help out with on the weekend when I've had time over the course of the week to dissect the matchups. Another reason why I encourage you guys to, if you have start sit questions, let's hold them to the weekend. Again, as much information as we can possibly work with. The 49ers are not going to be available. The Dolphins defense is interesting. Jacksonville's defense is interesting. Seattle's defense is interesting. They're probably available. The Chiefs are a good one against the Bears if they're not already rostered. Those would be my defense streams. My very early look at defense streams this week as far as defenses who should be available in your league. The Chiefs, Seattle, Miami at home against Denver. Teams like that. But you don't need the third waiver spot to get one of those. So hold it, do nothing. You have no immediate needs. If Jerome Ford is already rostered, do nothing, hold that waiver spot, and grab a defense after waivers runs. If you have Higbee and you want to add Hunter Henry at this point, you can do that. Tight end is volatile. It's a pain in the ass to try to figure out, but Henry has 2 touchdowns in 2 games. Who do the Patriots have this week? They're on the road for sure because I know their first 2 games were at home. The Patriots they got the Jets this week. That gives me some pause. You might not want to pick up Hunter Henry with the Jets playing at home with that defense against a subpar offense. You might want to hold on that. You might want to hold on picking up Hunter Henry. If you have Hunter Henry, then sure, hang on to him. But if you don't have him yet, that matchup against the Jets gives me some pause. On the road, I don't know that I feel great about that one. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. Well, that's fun. That's fine. He can sit comfortably on the bench where he belongs. Dameon Pierce for Jerome Ford. Now, this one's tough. I don't think I can go that far. I understand. Dameon Pierce has been disappointing so far, but consider his circumstances. He had to go on the road against Baltimore week 1. That's a tough spot. Rookie quarterback, first career game. You expect the offense to struggle. It's not a good matchup. The Ravens are a much better team than Houston on the road. Of course, like Dameon, we were expecting a floor game. We got a floor game. And then this past week, bad showing. I think he had like 4.5 half PPR points, somewhere around there. Keep in mind, their entire offensive line missed the game. Or like 3 out of the 5 didn't play, including Laramie Tunsil. The Texans' offensive line just straight up didn't play. They will get healthier. From what I've seen, there's not. I don't think there's any like season-ending injuries along the Texans' offensive line. They were all just banged up all at the wrong time, all at the same time. There's got to be somebody. There's got to be somebody on your bench who is an easier drop than Dameon Pierce. I don't want to drop Dameon Pierce yet. You drafted him high. It's too early to panic given the circumstances. I don't want to drop Dameon Pierce. Let me see. Rank Addison, Dotson, and Tutu for the rest of the season. I would go Addison 1. He looks awesome. Of these 3 guys, and if I missed this question earlier, my apologies. I can do ranking questions. I may have glossed over a couple of questions if I thought they were start-sit questions. So if they are a question where you want me to rank guys, I will kind of in a vacuum rank them. So sorry if I missed that. Addison would be first for me of these guys. He looks great. He already looks like the second best receiver for the Vikings, not including TJ Hawkinson. Different position, but Addison should be playing over KJ Osborne. He should be playing consistently over KJ Osborne. He has delivered in minimal opportunities. I think he's only playing like 65-ish% of the snaps. That number should be going up, not down. He's making plays on limited opportunities. Those opportunities should increase. I like Addison a lot rest of season. And that Vikings defense stinks. They are going to have to continue to throw. They're going to have to throw a lot in Minnesota. I didn't account for that as with Kirk Cousins as like a best ball target this year. I didn't consider how, as much or factor in as much. The Vikings defense is bad. They are bad. They are not good. So Addison's 1. It's too early for me to put Tutu over Dotson, even though Tutu has severely outproduced Dotson. I still think Dotson has plenty of spike week potential in him for the rest of this season. And that could come this week in a matchup where Washington's going to have to keep their foot on the gas, hosting the Bills. Tough offense. Offense that can score plenty of points. I have to give Dotson the edge over Tutu for now, but it is close. It is very close. Tutu has blown Dotson out of the water in the form of production. He's outproduced Addison as well, but I can't go that high yet. I can't put Tutu over Addison. And I can't quite put Dotson over Tutu yet, but one more week like the ones that they've both had thus far, and Tutu goes over Dotson. If Tutu has another 5-catch, 75, 80-yard week, and Dotson struggles again, then I will put Tutu over Dotson. Addison is first right now of that group, though. Let's see. Moving on down the list. Traded McLaurin, Swift, and some fob bucks and got Olave. Nice. Nice. Nicely done. I like that a lot. I like Terry. But he continues to be a guy. It's like he's got so much talent. He's such a good receiver. He has such inconsistent quarterback play to work with. He caught a nice touchdown though this past week against the Broncos. Beat double coverage, if I'm remembering correctly, for the score. Terry McLaurin's nice as hell, but he is a weekly. He's a guy that makes you sweat a little bit on a week-to-week basis because his quarterback is not a little bit better. Swift, he's going to have his weeks. He's going to be really good, but Olave, I still believe in as a low-end wide receiver 1 for the season, with plenty of wide receiver 1 upside week over week. So I'm okay with that. As long as you have other viable running backs to turn to, then I'm okay with that. Because all that to say, DeAndre Swift should be the Eagles' RB1 for the rest of the season. So he gained some big time value back in week 2. That being said, if your running back depth is good, parting with him to get Olave is fine. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. The waiver order resets each week. I might need a little bit more. So regardless, is it just like the person who had the worst week gets scored the fewest points gets the first spot each week? Is that how it works? If that's how it works and it's not worth saving the spot, then sure, address your most immediate need while you have the top spot or while you have a top 3 spot. I used to do rolling waivers before I did FOB. I did rolling waivers. So like if I had the 6th claim out of 10 or out of 12 and I didn't use it that week and 3 people ahead of me did use their waiver claim, then I move up to the 3rd spot the following week, regardless of whether I did well or did poorly. I did rolling waivers. If it resets or overall, all right. So, I mean, if you're looking down the line, if you're looking at your situation, obviously we can't predict the future. We have no idea what's going to happen ultimately. But if you're looking at your situation and your lineup versus the opponent, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to get a win this week, and I like my chances to score lots of points, you think you're going to be one of the better teams this week, then yeah, just sure, use the waiver claim to address your biggest need, which is defense. Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, so then in that regard, there's less incentive to save the waiver claim. So use it. I'm fine with it. I mean, go ahead and look at the matchups yourself tonight. I haven't had, again, I can get, obviously with waivers processing later in the week, or tomorrow or tonight, excuse me, you want to kind of dissect these matchups early, even though it's kind of difficult to do. Look at the matchups. Kansas City hosts the Bears. Seattle hosts the Panthers. Miami hosts Denver. I know Denver got that Hail Mary touchdown at the end of the game last week, but they still look like an offense to target. Arizona plays Dallas. They're rostered. Miami, if you like them against the Broncos. Seattle, if you like them against the Panthers. The Chiefs against the Bears would probably be my pick. So if that's the defense that you decide on as like, this is who I want to roll into week 3 with, then sure, use the claim tonight. Use the claim tonight. Are we grabbing Kareem Hunt this week? No, sir. No. He hasn't even signed yet. Are your waivers running tonight? Because he hasn't even signed yet. We don't know if he's going to sign. We have no idea if he's going to sign. So no, I'm passing on Kareem Hunt. Again, I'll say this a couple more times. I feel like this is important. If you can't get Jerome Ford on waivers or if he's already rostered, I want the rookie running backs, not the stopgaps that look like they might get an opportunity this week. So Tony Jones Jr., pass. Matt Breida, pass. Craig Reynolds, a little more interested. He's good situation, good offensive line. I'll spend a couple bucks on him if I have FOB. But if I've got a good waiver claim, I don't really want to spend it on Craig Reynolds. If